I know.
Hi, this is Amy Magyar with FromWithin Coaching, and today on CliftonStrengths Unpacked with Coach Augusta Carl, as always, we are unpacking Relator. So glad that you are here with me so we can relate to Relator.
This is
Um,
a great
it,
strength.
it is not one that you and I have as a top five,
Oh,
yet we have so many other relationship
mhm.
themes, right, and domains, but it's just we just happen to not have relators, so this will be fun to kind of play with
Yeah,
um, in terms of our own understanding of it,
yeah.
and then also looking at some of our clients. But thank you for being here again.
Thank you, Amy.
Absolutely. So let's do this. I'm going to do the quick description of Clifton Strengths definition, and then we'll get kicked off. So for relator, people who are strong in the relator theme enjoy close relationships with others. They find deep satisfaction in working hard with friends to achieve a goal. What I actually really love about that definition is it has the two magic words for me about relator and how I remember relator is the word close and the word deep.
Yeah.
So for me, I sort of, in my own way of looking at this, I created the definition of relator as connection comfort.
Mm,
So I'll explain that a little bit. So for me with relator, it is that someone with relator tends to have a connection with somebody to begin with, and there's an incredible comfort with that connection. And
mm.
they want to lean into that connection. So there's safety in that connection, and there's an incredible comfort with it. But it does not mean that they have that connection and that comfort with everybody,
Everyone, right?
right?
There's the
Yeah.
deep.
How
Yeah.
would you define relator?
Yeah, I agree with you as far as deep. I just see it as visually as this one, once there is a connection with somebody, that it goes very, very deep. And it's not that wide kind of surface, more everybody type of connecting.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I've worked with lovely clients with this strength in their top five, and it's this beautiful sense of showing up genuinely and authentically, and they love the intimacy of being
Yes.
vulnerable, and that draws that relationship down into the deepness. It invites others to also show up in that way. So it's really just this, that's what I see, deep.
Yeah. It's this, for me, what just came up as you were talking about that is for a relator, they don't just have friendships, they have best friendships. They
Right,
don't have just like their friendships are deep, they are
right.
best, right? And they are maybe multiple bests, but it's an intense relationship. Um it is not surface in any way, shape, or form.
No, and we talk
Wow.
about, you know, our strengths as being our being sense, how we show up and how we navigate the world. And when I think about relator, it's somebody who really is so fueled by these intimate, deep relationships. And it's almost, it's, you know, these things are like requirements for them to.
Will you do me a favor? Will you touch
Oh,
on, because some of our folks, this may be the first time they're ever really thinking about if they have relator as a strength. You use the term fuel. Can you explain a little bit about fuel and strengths?
absolutely. When I say that, what comes to my mind is energize, the word energize, because, you know, the way we are being in life, when we're aware and aligned with who we are, our truest self, our
Yeah.
strengths, our, you know, different other things about ourselves, then we show up in a way that feeds us. It doesn't take energy to do tasks
Right.
or to have these relationships. And so when I think about the fuel for relator, it is that the necessity of those deep, close, intimate relationships.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, Amy, going through this, I will say today in, you know, 2021, January, I just think, wow, all of my clients who I know who've had relator, I really should check on them more. I've checked on them once, but I want to check on them again, because this must be a very difficult time.
It is, right, because they're, even if it's through Zoom or
Zoom,
FaceTime
yeah.
or Microsoft Teams, there's still, it is not the same as maybe once right? A
Right.
quarter. It is that need, that fuel for that connection, and that almost that assurance that that social bond is there, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And it's a one-on, that need for that one-on-one, which
Yes.
we're all, via Zoom, that's fine, but it's a real need. That's what I meant by
Yeah.
fuel. They really need it to be their best.
And so that's something that I want to bring up in terms of, if a leader has somebody with Relator in
Mm.
their top five, is to be aware that that person, there's a really good chance they're going to ask you as the leader, hey, tell me about your family, or they're going to ask a little deeper conversation questions, especially in the beginning of your relationship, to get to know you. That, first of all, I will say this, that any leader who thinks it's inappropriate to share who they are as a human being with their employees, they're not my people. That's not the way we do things anymore. There is a share, there's beautiful, vulnerability around showing.
Mhm.
I am a mother of three, and I sometimes want to eat my kids, or whatever it is. It's just, is being able to have that personal connection. If you have a relator on your team and you put up a block for them,
Mm.
you're going to drain them, and you as their manager and leader, the person that in theory should also fuel them, you're actually taking away some of that energy. So it's just something to be aware of. It's a great opportunity for those people that want to practice truly being vulnerable. Have a relator on your team, and they are going to ask you some interesting, deep questions that are really important for you to share with them. Not saying you have to
Absolutely.
share with your whole team, although I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. Share it, right?
No, that's so interesting. So that's, really bringing up that desire. The relator has that desire to really understand another and
Yes.
to delve into, like, what are your dreams? What are your goals? And that again speaks to the depth. And so I guess what's coming to my mind is a question that I think, folks might ask as they look and hear about all the different strengths. I can hear some of that in individualization,
Yeah.
that relationship building theme, and also maybe woo. So how would you explain, just maybe with those two, or even empathy, how relator is different?
Yeah. Great question. And that's the thing, is that each one of these 34 strengths, they do a very, they have very specific factors to them. And yet, because let's say relator and empathy are still in the relationship domains together, there may be some sort of
Mm,
interaction there, or with individualization. So as an example, I have a couple of notes. Let me just read something.
sure.
um, so one of the things about individualization, which I have, right, is that we are curious about who the person is, but we almost are able to see very clearly who they are, almost without them needing to tell us.
Mm,
So it's almost like we see them very intuitive. I see who you are, and I
yeah,
champion that. Relator says,
yes.
I want to get to know who you are. Not that individualization makes assumptions. I don't think we do. I think we have an intuitive radar.
Yeah,
But Relator says, pretend I don't know. I want to know. I'm going to ask you questions
I
to
love that.
really help you tell me in your language who you are.
So that's so interesting. I have individualization also, and that I think that's a spot on. There's this almost invitation to have the other person do that sharing and telling, and therefore become more vulnerable and closer.
Yeah.
It's different than individualization, which I do believe is more intuitive. That's so
So
interesting.
let's talk about Relator and empathy, and then we'll do
Absolutely.
Relator and woo. So Relator and empathy is this idea that empathy someone with empathy could walk into a room and be able to read the energy pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and sort of be able to do it in a broad sense, and not need to know the person to really know what's happening for them. They've got this
Mm,
beautiful radar. Where a relator has the radar, but the radar is highly tuned to people they know.
yes.
So they have both have strong radars, the relator doesn't need to know the person to pick up on what's happening. And empathy, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, empathy.
That's empathy. And relator, they have the radar with those they are closer with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just got my words all mixed up. And then I think with woo, being woo.
Yes.
I think what happens is we often, with woo, we want to win others over as to sort of help them get connected to an idea or a belief or to a person. And when I walk in a room, I will work the entire room, right? I will make sure that I talk to every single person. That's also a little bit of my individualization popping up too, is that desire to get to know too. But my woo is I want to make sure that the entire room gets touched in some way and talked to or sort of connected with, so that they feel feel my presence. A relator will walk into a room and go straight to the people that they know.
Yes.
I probably will wave at the people I know and go to the people I don't know, because I already know that those people I know sort of have an idea of who I am.
Yeah.
I'll still make sure to create that bond or reinforce that bond, but I want to create a bond with new people.
So that's beautiful explanations. And, you know, what my question is, you know, relator, once they've made that bond and they've got that desire and that radar, how is it for them creating a bond? Like, is that
it's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it hard to meet people, or like, how's that first step?
Well, I think like anything, right? New is uncomfortable and we fumble, right, and things like that. I will say though, for those people, and this is a great example of how to, if you know you have relator and you're starting a new job, is that this may be a little scarier because you don't have, you may not have the same kind of connections in that new, is remembering that part of your fuel is the getting to know, and getting in is breaking through sort of the surface ice of, I don't know anything about this person, but I think listen to, who are you drawn to, you know, feel that, because you do have a radar, because you're a human being, you have a radar, and when you feel like you've broken through that ice, the rest probably will come a little bit easier for you. It's just taking that, it's taking that opportunity to be vulnerable, to say, you know, in a sense, without saying it, I don't know you. I hope you're okay with my deeper question. And also knowing that you may want to start out with a really deep, big question. Yeah. And for somebody you've never met before, that's not the norm, right? So as an example, a relator would say, I met a relator at a cocktail party a million years ago when we could have cocktail parties. And he was introduced to me, and he immediately said to me, Amy, what do you put your energy into? Now, if here in America, right, most likely what we would say when we're in a cocktail party is, who do you work for? Yeah. What do you do? With 90% of Americans not really loving what they do, why do we ask that question to begin with? But he went right into, where do I put my energy? I mean, and that could have been answered 65 different beautiful ways. No small talk. I mean, one could say that was a small talk start of, you know, of this cocktail conversation. He went right in. I want to know. And so here's the thing, as a coach, I was just like, oh my God, thank you for asking me that, and not asking, you know, who do I know at this party, or how do I feel about the weather? However, not everybody is going to be comfortable with that. So part of it is also learning to read a little bit of who's coming at you. If they come sort of open arms, they may be a little bit more open, right? If they're a little more hunched over, not really looking at you, a big provocative question that you want to ask them to go in deep may not be the best first one, right? So read the person too. But it does take a little bit of courage. I will say this, as a leader, if I have a relator in my room, they are the social glue. They are the bond
Yeah.
because they truly feel a connection with people that is so deep. And
Yeah.
that is powerful, right?
Well, with a team for sure. And, that makes me think about, reflect on a lot of things, especially, work culture. Like if you do have relator, what would you want to move toward and what do you want to move away from? And I'm just thinking back to the days, they're still here in some places, some institutions, but where there's very formal and maybe stiff kind of relationships. And that kind of culture, that familial, close culture is not cultivated or encouraged. That, to me just seems like a nightmare situation for somebody who has relator.
And so, as for jobs to not be in, if you're asked to work a room consistently or to constantly be making new connections, see
Yeah.
if you have somebody with woo or individualization
Yeah.
with you to maybe do that.
Yeah.
The thing is that for me as woo, my gosh, have me work the room. I'll make sure with my connectedness, I'm going to get you connected to the relator and let them really,
Yeah.
if it's a business opportunity, really let them get to know each other and that partnership. So I kick it off. It's almost like, okay, this is going to sound weird. There is two strengths in CliftonStrengths called activator and achiever. An activator is the starter, achiever is the ender. And I almost want to say that woo is very much like the starter. We kind of get things started, connect, we win them over. And then if you are a woo, go find a relator and help get that connection closed, right? Create that, let them finish that connection and really go deep and really make it sort of the final end product. So I don't know if that made sense, but
no, it does, because it's the differentiation between like the even just not sales, but somebody who's connecting at a level that is for the connection, to make the connection.
yes.
But then, I can see somebody, I'm just thinking of like a financial company or something where there needs to be a relational,
Yes.
relationship. And so you've got woo, and then you've got relator to really, have that role. And because when I think of relator and the relationships that they build and that they thrive in, I sense so much trust because it's so genuine. And so it builds this beautiful air of trust between the two.
I just circled trust on my page. And that, and truly genuine trust. So can you imagine having somebody on your team or in your family who helps to build that trust because it shows up so authentically and so genuinely? Yeah. The thing that I will say is that a relator will not do this to you. When they say hello to you, they're not going to be like, hello, how are you doing? And looking away from you or at the next person that they want to talk to. They're going to look directly at you. And that is that creates genuine connection. So for my woos in the room, FYI, make sure you make eye contact and don't look to the next person if you want to be a little more relator, right? Make that person that you're talking to truly feel like they are the person in the room that you want to talk to. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. What else about Relator that you think, whether it's questions you have or things that you want folks to be aware of with it as we start to wrap up our time?
I love this strength. I've worked with clients with it, and it's so fun to see how it shows up within a constellation of each individual's strengths. But I just once, I'm reflecting on my last client who was high in Relator, and once she realized that, she was really able to understand a lot more about how she best navigates, not just her friendships, the needs that she has within her family, and going forward into the world. And it was really empowering. And I just, with this specific strength, it was really cool. So I think that the depth of the strength is beautiful.
Yeah, what I will say, based on what you just said, the words get it really resonated for me in the sense of, you didn't say that, but that's what came up for me.
Yeah.
Relators make you feel like they gotcha, they get
Yeah.
you. There's a deepness in,
Yeah.
you know, and that could be really scary for some people who are trying to put their masks on, right?
Absolutely.
And try not to. So if you have a friend who's a relator, you're not gonna be able to hide much from them, just a warning.
Absolutely.
They're gonna be able to really sort of, you know, sort of root out what's really happening for you or what you're trying to hide. But I think sometimes relator like empathy, when people get that as a top 5 in the corporate world, there's
Mm.
sometimes a little bit of a, it feels touchy feely. It feels
Yeah.
like I want it strategic, you
Yeah.
know, or I want
Totally.
it analytical. And I think what it is that it is very much a fuel for the other strengths, in the sense of it helps you, because I don't know, even during the years of COVID, we still have to interact with human beings.
Hmm.
So humans are the factor for most of the work that we do in some way that you have to interact with. Even scientists who study animals have to turn around and share with other human beings their findings. Is Relator helps you create that connection and that depth, in that that's not a bad thing, and not especially if what you need to do is about delivering a message, in a sense,
Mm.
because the message, you may not feel like you have to get to know the person you're delivering the message to, but whatever you're delivering the message about, Relator also, in my mind, also isn't just about getting to know someone, but it's
Mm.
getting to know someone's beliefs, someone's
Right.
values, someone's passion, and being curious about that too. So it's not just about the person, but it's
Right.
about almost like buying into what gets them excited. And so they're pretty big champions too,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
advocates. Yeah.
And in, going that trust, I think in, within anything, in any type of relational realm, trust being established is one of the most powerful and freeing um, things that can ever exist.
Yeah.
And so that to me is really the beauty of this, because it allows for so much more.
So much more. Absolutely. So here's the thing. A relator is probably, after listening to this, saying, I want to know more about myself and really go deep. And so today is not, it's not designed to be in lieu of a coaching session, or whether that's with From Within coaching or any strengths-based coach, but it's a chance for you to at least get a sense of what it may be, especially if it's new to you that you were a relator, just sort of understanding a little bit about it. There's so much more to understand. And so we invite you to dive deep into understanding what it means to be a relator, the highs and lows, and all of that through a coaching session, and continued. We're going to continue to do this throughout, in terms of really helping people understand how it affects them in certain parts of their area. This is sort of a 50,000-foot level of it, but we'll get into more specifics coming up. But any last minute thoughts you want to say about a relator?
No, that's wonderful to talk about it today.
Yeah, yeah. They are great people to have in your lives. Go seek them out. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of having wonderful people in your lives, thank you, Coach Augusta Good Crawl, for
Thank
being a
you,
part
Amy.
of this, as always. And we will see you on the next Clifton Strengths Unpacked.